about 5 steps happening there, how this application is starting up, and how it updates UI from getting a translation from the server, how it updates its interface from local audit file and so on. Let me go through one by one. So during the application startup, there is a special file called RTL ini, which is an initial file. So it has some parameters like what is the IP address of the server and where this its local file is going to be saved, things like that. So every time you restart the application, it will read the setting file and get these settings into its memory. And there is a special parameter we save here, and it's called UI fetch. And if you make it true, it will get the translation from the server. Otherwise, it will just get the translation from the local audit file. Right. And now let's see how it's updating its user interface by updating the translation from the server. No, the local audit file. So as I mentioned, we use the PO file as a format for the local audit file. So this is a simple PO file, right? And there are some advantages of just using a local file. Maybe as Raja suggested, you can use Xlib replacing the PO file, and that will be much better. And this is better if you don't have an internet connection. Still, you can localize the application, and it can actually saves you some bandwidth. And also, you can share the PO files with the others. You can have your own version of your application, and you can share this with the other community. That's some advantages of having this local audit file. And this is the process how it translates by obtaining the translations from the server, right? And this actually happens every time you restart the application, as I demonstrated. And it will try to pick the best suggestions by the community. I will explain how we do that. Translations with highest number of words. And this is the process. The local application will send an HTTP request to the server. The request looks like this, and it specifies the language as a parameter for the server. The server will then generate an XML containing translations for the UI. It has special segment or unit called board. I will explain in a minute. And this client will process this XML, and then it updates the UI. So simply you send, the client will send an HTTP request to the server, and it will send the XML back to the client containing all the translations. And this will process the translations and display in computer. And this is how you submit the translations. Again, it's similar to the previous step. You send an HTTP request to the server, and now you state the language and your submission, whatever the word that you wish to submit, and the source word. Right? So upon submission, let's see what happens. Now this is where the analysis engine of a server play a major part. Actually, it will try to find whether the submitted word already exists in its database. If it is there, it will increase that particular word's word by 1. Right? And if it is not there, it will be added to the database. So that's how our voting mechanism works. So if 2 people suggest the same word, obviously you will get that word in your translated version of the application. So once you submit, the server will see whether it's in the database. If it is there, it will increase its port. If it is not there, it will just add add that particular word to the database. So each submission will be counted as one node, right? And then if the submission was successful, then the server will send client a simple XML saying the submission was successful. Again, it's similar to the previous step. Client will send HTTP request with all these parameters, and then if the submission is successful, it will just send an XML response saying the submission was successful. And again, you can retrieve other suggestions by the community. So this is where you pick this particular option, then it will try to fetch all the suggestions by the community. And again, it's similar to the previous steps. So send HTTP request saying what is the source word and the language. It will retrieve all the translations from the server. And it will display the suggestions in the user interface similar to the previous step. Okay, now, yeah.
Sorry, and then if you select number 3, next time you export, will that give your vote, cast your vote for number 3?
Yeah. That's exactly.
Okay.
But it's problematic, I will mention that. So we have identified some of the issues with this architecture. For an example, you have a button something like this, and what you do is you just right click on this text and you enter your translation here. This is German. And okay, I submit. Unfortunately, part of your string gets cropped. Right? So it's not just a matter of translating or submitting strings. So you have to resize the controls. You have to resize these buttons or whatever the elements according to the translation by the community. Right.
Well, is resizing a good idea, or maybe we could resize the size of the font? Like if GUI doesn't allow you to resize the button, then
Yeah, that's the problem. So these are issues.
Yeah.
We have to address these issues, and we are thinking that maybe it is at some cases it's not possible to resize,
right.
and that doesn't allow, the application doesn't allow itself to resize.
Maybe you can word wrap the text and
Yeah,
make it small size and show it, display it there.
Yeah. So this is an
Or as a tooltip. As a
Yeah,
tooltip.
we'll come to that as well. So, have you seen this dialog before? So raise your hand if you have seen this. No? How about this? Have you seen this? Raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, and the previous diagram also comes from the word itself, word 2007, and this is word 2007. So in this kind of an approach, there is a possibility that users will only translate the most frequently used diagrams, dialogues actually. Right? That's another issue